Hey everybody, Jonathan Doyle with you once again. Welcome back, friends, to the daily podcast. We are riffing through a week or two's worth of listener questions, challenges and problems, because we are, in fact, all of us, every single one of us, on this journey together, this journey towards growth, this journey towards daily self-improvement. We get one life, and we all got our challenges, we all got our problems. You live long enough, friends, you see enough life, you realise that nobody gets to ride for free. We are all on this journey, and the great thing about having you guys listening to the show is that you are the kind of person who is interested in growing, interested in developing, and the purpose of this growth and development is, to give glory to God, to kind of contribute to ease the suffering of our fellow sisters and brothers on this great big journey together. Gosh, that's a big intro, huh? Not expecting much of you, am I? Just expecting that you'll alleviate the pain of suffering of those around you. But all we got to do is move the needle a little bit each day. That is the task, just to move the needle a little bit each day. I'm doing the best I can with that at the moment. I'm training pretty hard. I'm eating well. I'm trying to sleep properly. Just trying to do what I can. And I've been enjoying speaking again, just recently been back on stage. And it's a great joy just to be back with real humans and to try and offer some words that encourage and inspire people. So, friends, I hope today's episode is going to be a blessing to you. Please make sure you have subscribed. Hit that subscribe button. I know I say it every episode. It does make a difference. If you could leave a review, leave some stars, take a moment to do that. It does help. And what else? Go check out the show notes. There are a whole bunch of things there. You can get a free copy of my book. You can get coaching with me. You can book me to speak. And you can find the YouTube channel on the link. So whatever podcast platform you're listening to, check those show notes, because there's a bunch of good stuff there, including Karen's MasterClass. My amazing wife works with women. She coaches women all over the world. So if you are A, female, B, interested in managing the crazy, busy, overwhelming nature of modern life in personal, business or family settings, then go check out her masterclass. I'm really proud of what she does, and I know that it makes a huge difference to so many people. So friends, let's jump in today. We're going to talk about the topic of self-judgment, and we're going to talk particularly about critical self-judgment. This comes from a listener whose question is, how do I deal with overcoming judgment of myself and dealing with others judging me? I got a few thoughts on this. Just randomly, the concept of others judging me, I almost said, well, look, there's a bifurcation here, isn't there? I think you'll agree with me that people come at this two different ways. There's the kind of swag approach, which is, I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I'm just going to be my own person. And I get that. I get this kind of idea that there's a certain degree of psychological, emotional health that comes from being pretty disinterested from what people around us think of us. I think that works up to a point. I'm not convinced it works with the people that we love the most. Because if we find ourselves in a situation where we don't care about the judgment of those closest to us, well, I don't know. That's not a good place to be, because love has mutual responsibilities, mutual obligations. And if we love people and they love us, then what they think about us, I think it's a significant thing. I wasn't planning to go down that path straight away. There's a fair few things I want to cover in this topic, but I think that's an initial tension. I would like to think, I don't know. I think we all sort of fall in all sorts of different places around this idea of what others think of us. In many ways, I don't care. For me, I kind of feel that my life's pretty unique. I sort of do this and I do my thing, and there's people doing 10 things 10,000 times more amazing than what I do, and there's people doing less things than I do, and so I'm not particularly worried about the broad sense of what the great sweep of the world thinks about me, because I'm a realist. One of the easiest ways to be happy in life is to realize that most of the time people aren't thinking about you that much, because often so much anxiety comes in life because we're convinced that people are thinking about us and worrying about what we do, and but I do find myself, especially when I'm speaking, I want to do a good job. I want to really help people. And if people have paid to have me there and they're taking a risk putting me in front of people, that I want to do a great job. So I do care about their judgment of me in that sense. So because I want to do what I promised to do. I want to keep my obligations. So already we can see this is a relatively complex topic, but I think what this listener is pointing to is probably more around a toxic sense of judgment of ourselves, a harsh, critical judgment of ourselves, and a fear that others judge us critically. I said in an episode a couple of days ago, we're all born with different temperaments. We're all born with different personalities. Some of us are just easy to love. Some of us are just, ebullient and funny, and the world just loves us. And some of us have to really work at it. Some of us are quiet, and we wonder if there's something wrong with us. So, we're all on this human journey, right? And we all have been dealt different cards. Some of us came from the most beautiful homes and great families, and we've been relatively unscathed by the vicissitudes of life. And some of us have been absolutely beaten up on the journey. Some of us have been traumatized, abused, rejected, hurt, abandoned. And so this concept of judgment is going to be a big issue. And I think what the listener is referring to here is this internal self-critic, right? This critic that's like just constantly chipping away at us. All of us, I think, have probably experienced some degree of it. But here's a few things I want to talk about. On my run this morning, my training run, for those of you not familiar with my insanity, in a few weeks I'm doing a 255 kilometer bike race, and then 10 days after that I'm running an ultra marathon. So I'm sure that'll go well. I just want to see what the episodes. I might have to record about 50 episodes before I do it. Just put them on auto posting, because it'll be like, where's Jonathan? We haven't seen him for a few weeks. It's because I'm sleeping. So on my training run this morning, I was listening to an interview between Joe Rogan and Gabriel Mates. Gabriel Mates, who, if you're not familiar with him, he's written a great deal on addiction. And his thesis is that all addiction is always, without exception, driven by trauma. And listening to him this morning, his thesis was, if you look into the natural world, babies are just kind of, in a sense, loved unconditionally, right? There's a huge evolutionary predisposition for that, right? So species want to continue to live, so they invest heavily in the young. And so, he was giving the example of when a mother elephant gives birth, a whole bunch of other female elephants stand around, and when the baby is born, they all start stroking the baby with their trunks, right? And his thesis is that in the natural world, there's this kind of unconditional affection, nurturing that's just present. But he said, if you look at the whole controlled crying thing and, some aspects of the disciplining of kids, that we've kind of got in the developed world at least a sort of parenting paradigm where, it's tough love at times and control crying, and we don't want to pick the kid up all the time, and we can't feed them whenever they're hungry. And as a parent, I can definitely remember some of that stuff and all the conflicting advice. And so at this point, if some of you are listening going, hang on, we've covered elephants, we've covered control crying, what are we doing here today? It's simply, Gabriel Mates' thesis is that many of us have not emerged into life with the experience of unconditional love. And so this unconditional love means that we can end up with a level of psychic damage, which is that do we belong here? Were we welcomed here? Are we loved unconditionally? And then the thesis is that then a lot of people get driven into addictions or proving behaviors, so proving their goodness through work or through success or different things. And so I guess if I was to tie all this together, we'd be talking about the fact that many of us, through the wounds of our childhood perhaps, have experiences lacking in unconditional love. We've had experiences of not feeling like we're enough or good enough, and so this internal critic takes over, and we judge ourselves harshly. We assume that other people are judging ourselves harshly. These are very deep things. They're semi-conscious often at best. And as I said in a recent episode, often, not always, but often what can happen with therapy is that you end up exploring the truth of where trauma might come from, but I'm not convinced that the therapeutic industry is as yet fully as gifted in strategically helping people grow through that, by which I mean a lot of therapy, people end up kind of understanding their childhoods and picking all the pieces apart, but often not actually getting healed. And really what this episode is about healing, right? Because critical self-judgment and fear of others judging us is a wound. It's a response to pain. And I think I could prove that by saying, well, imagine somebody who is loved completely unconditionally and feels completely at peace and accepted and belonging in the world. Then there's not a lot of room there for negative self-judgment. Now, by this, I'm not talking about narcissism, which means you have no sense that you can do wrong and that you can make poor decisions and hurt people and cause offense. So we're all going to do that. And when we make mistakes, we need to recognize that we acted poorly and we need to ask for forgiveness if required and make an effort to do better next time. That's just humanity. That's just our journey, right? But this is different. What we're talking about is this brutal, critical, internalized critic that just chips away. And one of the ways you can always tell is it's never going to be on your side. The internal critic is not the one that, you do something wrong, the internal critic's like, oh, here we go, you've done it again. Everyone hates you. I can't believe you did this. Look at what you did. No one likes you. You're such an idiot. You stuffed this up. Whereas I think the voice of, I guess what I would call the Holy Spirit is the voice of challenge and invitation, which is, you got this. You're going to grow in this area. You're going to come through. You're going to get better in this. It's the same circumstance. We might have done something wrong or had a negative experience, but the voice is different. The internal critic is very different to the voice that encourages us towards growth. So, man, we're covering everything today. We got psychology. We got theology. So what are we going to do? A couple of useful things. First is just to file away the crucial difference between shame and guilt. Shame and guilt. Some of you would know this one. Many of you wouldn't. You must get really good, my friends, at the crucial delineation between the psychodynamic experiences of shame and guilt. Guilt is an appropriate psychological response to having done something objectively wrong. So if you harm someone and there was a degree of deliberateness about it, like you're angry or you're this or you're that, and you actually go out of your way to square the ledger and you do something to hurt somebody, and then you realize it, that's psychologically healthy. It's called guilt. You see, the way I can prove that is to say, imagine guilt doesn't exist as a concept. Imagine we could not experience guilt. You don't want to live in that world. You really do not want to be in that world. You want to be in a world at the moment where guilt is a thing, because guilt is self-reflective and guilt allows you to grow. Guilt allows you to improve relationships by recognizing that you damaged them and seeking reconciliation and reconnection with people. So having done wrong in our lives, as we all have, that sense of guilt drives us towards resolution and growth. Guilt doesn't have to be a toxic, negative thing. Shame is different. Shame is not that I have done wrong. Shame is I am wrong. Guilt is I've done something bad, as opposed to shame being I am bad. So shame is something that takes over our entire existence and colors our reality and our sense of self, whereas guilt's an appropriate emotion in particular circumstances. So I want to make sure when it comes to this journey of judgment, we want to push back against shame. We want to accept guilt if it's appropriate. All right, so that's one little useful thing to file away. So what I would like to suggest is when you find yourself experiencing the internal critic, when you find yourself experiencing brutal self-judgment or you're fearing the judgment of others, a few things. Ask yourself some I love reframing questions. Here they are. Is this kind? Is this fair? Is this true? Is it moving me toward the life I desire? So when you're beating yourself up, ask yourself this, is this kind? Would you treat someone else like this? Would you treat someone you loved this way? Would you treat someone you love with the kind of, tough, unkind self-judgment and internal criticism that you give to yourself? Is it fair? Whatever's happened, is you're beating up on yourself. Is that fair given the circumstance? Like to judge yourself so harshly, maybe you didn't get something perfect, maybe you didn't do something the way you wanted it to, maybe something didn't work out the way you wanted it to. Is it really fair to just judge yourself really harshly? Is it true? Is it objectively true? Sometimes we can just be so hard on ourselves for something that, somebody else might perceive a bit differently. And finally, we want to be conscious of the life that we're gravitating towards, which is a life of greater contribution, peace, love, joy, creativity. These are things we want in our life. We want more of these things. So one good filter to use if you're deep in the well of internal criticism and self-judgment is talking to myself this way moving me towards the life that I want? Because if it's not, then you have to stop, and it's a discipline to begin to stop. So I just want to wrap this up, and really the way to wrap it up is to talk about what underpins all of this. And really what underpins it is the concept of healing. And even Gabriel Mates said that today in the interview. He's a world famous guy with heaps of books on this. He said that really what we're talking about is healing. Because if we've had trauma, if we've had pain, if we've had setbacks, then think of them as physical injuries, right? If you've had a bunch of physical injuries, then what you want to do with those is heal them, right? You want them to go away. You want them to be restored. You want restoration. So we're talking about the journey of healing. And I want to give you a couple of thoughts. There's two things that, I'll give you three. You can definitely consider counseling and therapy if it's helpful to you. I have a conflicted, complex attitude towards that in this season. I've talked about that in previous episodes. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying you want to find somebody who can get you beyond the narrative, right? You want to find somebody who can get you beyond describing your past and giving you really genuinely actionable, useful strategies in the real moment to transcend and heal that suffering, right? That's what you want to look for. So definitely don't rule out good psychologists, counselors, pastors, priests, whatever can be helpful to you. So, I have a beautiful spiritual director in Denver. I catch up with a bunch of good people very regularly. I got a bunch of people that keep a close eye on me that I'm very grateful for. Father figures, mentors, priests, people that I can talk to. So, the talking therapy can be really helpful. The other thing is you want to develop the discipline of rebuking and catching yourself in the act of harsh internal criticism and judgment, which literally means moment to moment, if I could be so blunt, you got to call bullshit on yourself regularly, all the time. As soon as you find yourself going, oh, you've done it again. Look at you. Everyone hates you. Look at what you've done. Just go, whoa, 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 whoa. You just stop. You just go, I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now. And then ask yourself the questions. Is this moving me towards the life that I really want? Is this kind? Would I speak to someone else this way? And for me, I kind of pray through that when I find myself ever doing that. I kind of pray. I go, no, I just pray. I go, no, I'm not going there. I'm not taking the bait. I'm not going down the rabbit hole. This isn't the truth. Not doing it. I'm just not. And people like me have to sometimes do it, hundreds of times a day sometimes. So it depends on your background, right? Some of you are like, I don't really get this. I don't really talk to myself this way. God bless you. Can I say that? We love you. God bless you. You better be out there being a really nice human because you've had a pretty good run. The rest of us kind of just find ourselves wrestling with this stuff. So catch yourself in the act. And finally, for me, healing is really a spiritual task. I spend a lot of time sitting in the back of churches, just sitting, and I take a lot of time for prayer. I do. It's part of my disciplines. It's been there for many, many years. And I got to the point spiritually where I stopped trying to think about everything and figure everything out cognitively and rationally, and I just sit quietly, got some music on my headphones, do about an hour a day, and I'm just like, God, make my problems your problems. I remember speaking in Boise, Idaho years ago. It was the best. And this bishop got up and he said, you know what you people have got to do? He said, you got to stop making God unemployed. You got to stop making God unemployed. I love that line. We have to hand over some of the things that we can't fix to a higher power, right? And however you construct or conceive that in your spiritual journey, I'm pretty straightforward and honest about mine, but some things we just can't fix ourselves. Some things we need to recognize that we need healing for and trust that there is a greater force in the cosmos that is on our side, that is not thinking about you the way you sometimes think about yourself. When you are hard on yourself, it wills nothing but good for you. When you are beating yourself up, it has nothing but compassion for you. That's where the magic is. All right, there's a lot in that. What have we covered? Joe Rogan, Gabriel Mates. Difference between shame and guilt. Unconditional love, trauma, healing. You guys are getting a lot of stuff here. God bless you. I better finish. So I'll finish with this. Just stop it, okay? Stop being hard on yourselves. Well, life's tough enough. Cut yourself some slack, all right? Take yourself out for dinner. Come buy yourself a drink. Go and have a couple of beers with yourself, if that's your thing. Whatever. Buy some flowers, whatever. Be nice to yourself, okay? Life is difficult enough without us queuing up to beat ourselves up. And finally, other people's judgment of us, 90% of the time it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. You just got to get good at ignoring it, not thinking about it. But there are people that love us and we should, I think, be reasonably concerned about their judgment of us, because we want them to judge us. We want them to judge their relationship and interactions with us with joy and peace and appreciation. So those are worth sowing into. God bless you, everybody. Please make sure you've subscribed, share this with some friends. Go check out all the links in the show notes. My name's Jonathan Doyle. This has been the Daily Podcast, and you and I are going to talk again tomorrow.